Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill, and I have had the great pleasure of hosting Dinesh's podcast this week. This is the last day I'm going to be hosting it this week while he's been in Israel. I heard from him that he's just been having a fantastic time. He's on his way back now. And it was so fitting in a strange way that I was hosting his podcast this week because I always love doing it. But after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I've just felt like there's this real need for us to really talk about what's going on, especially amongst young people, amongst conservatives, amongst people moving over to Christianity, which has been very exciting. So it's been a dark time. It's been kind of a shocking, in many ways, just horrible time in reacting to this. I know when I first was seeing what happened to him. I mean, I think the initial response is just shock. But I think it's been heartwarming to see a lot of the positive prayer, the vigils, the positive responses from many people on the right and many people who are in the center. So we're going to be talking more about Charlie Kirk today. We're going to be talking about the census. We're going to talk about where we kind of think our majority is going as far as the midterms, and even looking further beyond the midterms. Where do we see the Republicans and the Democrats falling? We are also going to speak to pro-life activist Christine Yeargin for her reaction to this week's events. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
After doing a stint as the senior investigative researcher for the Capital Research Center, Hayden Ludwig became the director of policy research at Restoration of America. He's known for his election analysis covering issues like the use of Zuck bucks in the disastrous 2020 election. Well, earlier this month, before the current tidal wave of insanity completely swamped the American political left, he penned a two-part article titled "The Permanent MAGA Majority." This article has nothing to do with the left's embrace of what Charlie Kirk ominously characterized as assassination culture. So there's reason to believe that however dire the situation was for the left at the beginning of September, it's gotten measurably worse. Let's first focus on this article because I think it has a lot of great points demonstrating the Democrat Party's situation before publicly endorsing assassination culture. Hayden Ludwig deals mainly with the left's other major miscalculation, the manipulation of the domestic population in order to install a permanent majority and forever relegate the GOP to minor party status. That the left has been trying to flood the country with a dependent class of illegals and other non-citizens is no mere conspiracy theory. He points out that this has been an explicit goal of Democrat policy for decades now. In 2013, DNC campaign committee chairman Steve Israel openly said, quote, "Our path to the majority is through a new American electorate of Hispanics, African Americans, young voters, and women." But notice who's missing from that equation. Yes, despite occupying the second largest demographic at over 30%, America's white males have been summarily dismissed by the Democrat Party. Democrat support for boosting the non-American population in the country goes far beyond words. According to Ludwig, billions of dollars were spent during the previous census in 2020. You already know about tactics like ballot harvesting and drives to get out the vote during election seasons. We've seen that the left fanatically devoted billions of dollars in the previous elections to try to skew votes in their favor. They also engaged in another similar effort with the census, the effort to get out the count in 2020. Democrats lobbied heavily to ensure the census counted as many people as it could, regardless of their legal status. They also successfully leveraged the Supreme Court to stop the first Trump administration from even asking census participants if they were citizens or not. Writes Ludwig, While conservatives trusted the 2020 census to Census Bureau officials, Democrats left nothing to chance. Leftist charities spent years ensuring people in big blue cities, including homeless and non-citizens, weigh more heavily on the 2020 census results than in Republican states. This decade-long Get Out the Count project was coordinated by the Funders Committee for Civic Participation, a strategic hub of 90 progressive tax-exempt foundations worth a cumulative $6 billion. The Funders Committee isn't a grant maker. It's a convener for other power players, such as the AFL-CIO and Tides Foundation, to synchronize spending on a single project. Most of the committee's objectives revolve around registering new Democratic voters in swing states using an integrated voter engagement model that can be mobilized to win effective public policies. But it also ran a parallel funders census initiative in 2020 to improve census response rates and mobilize constituencies. That is, Democrat-leaning demographics, including illegal aliens, in target states, funded exclusively by left-wing philanthropies. Incredible as it sounds, this scheme only worked because the IRS allows 501c3 charities to participate in census advocacy, engaging in everything from advertising to door-to-door outreach by census workers and community organizations alike. As the Funders Committee puts it, it is vital that grant makers get involved. The Census Bureau can't do it alone. And here's how the scam worked. Democrats used the fact that blue states would entice illegals through sanctuary policies and the fact that illegals tend to gravitate towards major population centers run by Democrats, sanctuary cities, what have you, to skew the census count in order to allocate more congressional seats to those states. So even if illegals didn't vote, the voters in those states with higher percentages of illegals were allotted greater representation in Congress, and this is definitely Democrat areas. The net result is a vote in those states was worth more than votes where the foreign-born population is lower. That's why we see a lot of Middle America red states have far less representation. Note that for the scheme to work, illegals don't necessarily have to be given the right to vote in federal elections. They only have to be counted in the census. And you might also note that Democrats are fine with getting inflated representation in Congress, not because a greater number of people voted for them, but because they could play games with the census like this, and they could use mass illegal immigration to their advantage to effectively get more seats. This puts aside the fact that illegals, even if they are able to vote, and in future, if they were citizens, would likely vote for the Democrats as well. Now, the level of violence permitted and even encouraged by the political leadership in places like California suddenly makes more sense. Removing illegals lowers the number of congressional representatives for them, so a state like California's would get even lower because their overall population numbers go down. For a blue state like California, that means fewer Democrats in Congress. The Democrats have been doing everything in their power to keep this scheme going. It's the reason behind their open borders ploy and why California has become such a safe haven for illegals. It's the reason behind creating incestuous relationships between government money and left-wing charities who make this happen. That's why the left wants to fund these organizations, because these organizations are the ones who get out the census. It's the reason behind their rhetoric of calling anyone who remotely disagrees with them a racist or a fascist and so on. Unfortunately, it's also the reason why the cartels run rampant in these sanctuary cities. It's the reason why crime is through the roof in cities. It's the reason why ordinary people can't find good-paying jobs in those places. They're full of illegals. It's the reason why our society is divided into citizens and an exploited labor class. It's why the United States ranks number 1 in the world for child trafficking. It also explains why citizens feel so disenfranchised by their government. Because, in a way, they are. If we are voting people into office only to be sidelined for the Democrat Party's priority of trying to eradicate our influence, trying to lower our numbers and make it so that they have a permanent majority, then it's easy to see why voters don't feel they're being represented, even when some of them have literally twice the voting power in those states flooded with illegal immigrants. Like most Democrat Party schemes, this new system they've invented to subvert democracy in order to cement Democrat power does nothing to help the people they claim to care about. And fortunately, it's also done nothing to help the Democrats. The problem came to the forefront in the aftermath of the 2024 election when they realized that their get out the vote effort among young people, as well as especially Hispanic power centers and many Black areas, actually padded Donald Trump's numbers, thanks to the mail vote swinging wildly in his favor. So thank you for registering all of those people, Democrats. Things clearly did not work out for them, and it's getting worse. According to Ludwig, there are multiple measures that will permanently limit the possible top line of Democrat influence in the years to come. One obvious measure is deportation. Between mass deportations currently underway and self-deportations, which have been incentivized, we've already cut the population of illegal immigrants in the U.S. down by 2.2 million. Another big help is the fact that so far, 14 states have ratified amendments that only allow citizens to vote. It's a radical idea. I know that a democracy should reserve the right to vote to only those who are actually citizens of that country. It is unfortunate that we need organizations such as Paul Jacobs' Americans for Citizen Voting, but at least we're counteracting the Democrats' Dr. Evil approach to civics. Then, of course, there's the 2030 census, which the current Trump administration is much more focused on using to find the answer to the question, how many non-citizens do we actually have in America? From what we know about the 2020 census, the GOP was deprived of representation it should have received. According to Ludwig, in 2022, the Census Bureau announced it had undercounted 6 states, all but one of them Republican-run: Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, and Illinois, and overcounted 8 states, all but 2 of them Democrat-run: Delaware, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, Rhode Island, Ohio, and Utah. That error meant 3 Republican House seats that should have gone to Texas, Florida, and Tennessee remained Democrat seats in Colorado, Minnesota, and Rhode Island. That is a big deal when the past 3 Congresses have seen House majorities of just 10 seats or smaller, and the current GOP majority is just 7 seats strong, the narrowest in nearly a century. The overall effect of apportioning congressional representatives according to the citizen population, vice the number of random people living there, can't be overstated. It will radically change everything about how American politics operates by de-incentivizing the left's plan to use illegal immigrants and human trafficking to get votes and increase their census. We may even witness the advent of a Democrat politician who isn't trying to bilk taxpayers for millions of dollars. Insane, I know. Then we have the various redistricting battles going on across the country. Leaders in blue states have vowed retaliatory action, but California needs their measure to pass the popular vote when its polling is very unpopular. Not to mention, California is already so gerrymandered, it already has so many seats beyond measure. I don't really see how even redoing any of their maps could give them any further seats, because the only seats left there that are red are so red, it wouldn't even make a difference. Illinois' threat to redistrict ignores the fact that the state is already the most gerrymandered monstrosity in the country. Illinois really could not get any worse. And Massachusetts' threat would be credible were it not for the fact that they don't even have a red district to gerrymander out of existence. So that threat is really hollow. What's more, all these Trump administration moves, deportations, changing the census to count citizens, and redistricting are all being challenged by the Democrat Party. And this is a good thing. Why? Because no one is donating to them anymore. The party is extremely cash poor at a time when they need extra money for these expensive legal challenges. How can their money be gone? And right after Doge shut down all those NGOs too. According to Ludwig, not only will Democrats be fighting on unfavorable turf, they'll be spread thin at a time when the party is hemorrhaging cash and credibility. Fundraising has all but collapsed under Ken Martin's tenure as DNC chairman, which was already fraught with power struggles with ousted Vice Chair David Hogg, who was supposed to win back the youth vote. Democratic voter registration has dropped 7% nationwide and is down in every single state that reports partisan registration figures, including many swing states, while Republican Party registration is up 8% nationwide. In total, Democratic registration is down 2.1 million, while Republican registration is up 2.4 million. And we cannot forget about little David Hogg. He is so thin, the rumor is after he was removed from his chair, he sauced himself out of the room by sliding himself under the door. And did they really vote him out, or was it just a stiff wind that blew him away? The point of all of this is to show that the Democratic Party has had to work very hard to convince you, the voter, that they were a force to be reckoned with, that they were so strong and so unbelievably unbeatable. In reality, the Democrats and their ideas have never really been popular with the majority of Americans. It's an illusion designed to make it look like a wide swath of people approve of their ideas, but a lot of people actually don't agree with not being able to define what a woman is, or not caring who's a citizen, who actually lives in this country. They justify their real political violence by saying, our ideas are genocidal, we're racist, we're fascist. What's not to love about that kind of a party who says things like that? And speaking of which, we haven't even factored in the implications and effects of Charlie Kirk's assassination. The left has unknowingly triggered a new widespread social dynamic spawned by open slandering, advocating, cheering for the murder of an innocent man for the crime of merely civil debate. I can remember 2 weeks ago when the right was worried about the possibility that we wouldn't be as unified or as motivated to vote because we're on such a good winning streak. Usually that means that in the midterms, the other party gains ground. But boy, has that ever changed. We don't have any statistics on this yet, but as bad as it was for the Democrats, I think it's looking even worse for them now. This incident has unified many people who may not even have been Republican or conservative, who are waking up to this horrible evil going on in our country and are realizing that they actually are going to be more mobilized to get involved, to learn more about these issues. A lot of students have recently been starting these turning point chapters. We've seen over 60,000 new chapters. And we've also seen a lot of people going to church increasingly. A lot of services have just been packed full. We've seen vigils all over the country for Charlie Kirk. And so I don't think this is going to be a flash in the pan. I don't think this is going to be just, going on for a few days and then people are going to forget about all of this. We've really seen worldwide response to this happening. And I think that this has been a wake-up call for a lot of people. And many people describe it as one of the biggest political assassinations to take place since the killing of Martin Luther King. So I think young people are going to be very mobilized in the midterms. And I hope older people as well. But certainly I think young people have been waking up to just how the Democrat Party has just completely gone off a cliff. And I think it's looking even worse for them now. There are people who are all over the place saying that they are leaving the Democrat Party for good because of what happened to Charlie Kirk. We've seen so many cultural icons, so many sports teams, so many musicians playing tribute to Charlie Kirk. We've seen athletes. We've seen a lot of cultural icons and institutions saying positive things about Charlie Kirk. And that's really not something Republicans are used to. We're kind of used to being the people who are the everyday people, but we don't typically have any pull with Hollywood or elites or any of that. The Democrats, they have all of that. But no, this has been a bigger phenomenon than just your typical Republican voter responding to the death of Charlie Kirk. This is really bigger than that. And many of those who are staying in the Democrat Party, who are these radical, crazy liberals celebrating his death, are now unemployed thanks to their social media antics, making TikTok videos, praising murder. Some of them you may have seen are students who would be reenacting being Charlie Kirk, killed in the neck, and just sick things like that. They have been fired from their jobs in some cases. And so that is a good thing. These people can't, they just can't believe these things and express themselves without expecting there to be some kind of free market consequence, because other people are like, we don't want you working for us. I'm sorry. You don't represent our school. You don't represent our institution. So we're not going to keep you here as a student, and so on. So praising murder, praising assassination, a lot of people say on the left right now, all of a sudden the left has become obsessed with free speech. All of a sudden the left says, oh, we love free speech. Really? Because a few years ago, you were trying to censor anyone who was questioning a recently developed vaccine. Recently, you were wanting people to be fired for merely questioning something like that. So the left doesn't care about free speech. They just want to control us. But no, somebody celebrating murder and assassination, that should be totally fine. And to be clear, what's scary to me is there are many leftists out there who still believe those things. Yes, in a way, it's a win, I guess, if you call it a win, that some of these people are getting expelled. They're getting, they're losing their jobs. Okay, great. That seems like a win, but it's kind of a small win because I'm still worried about the fact that there are more leftists out there who think like that. If you're at a point of wanting to justify political assassination and you genuinely want to murder conservatives, I worry about students on college campuses. I worry about conservative speakers. And I just think that that's just horrible that the country's gotten to that point. So yes, I think many people are changing their minds. Many people are becoming conservative, Republican. We're going to see that increasing. We're seeing there are repercussions for these radical leftists, but it has to go deeper. We need the government to look into these Antifa incels. They need to look into what are these groups? What are these NGOs who are encouraging this? Where is money coming from? How are these people organizing? I know many of them are, lone wolves and so on because they are kind of anarchists, but there is a network. A lot of them do communicate online. We talked earlier this week about Discord or Reddit, but they are getting their ideas from somewhere. And I think they do want the praise of their peers online when they do things like this. So we need to really bust those things. And I think that's going to be up to the DOJ to really look into them. But when we look at the Democrats, when we look at kind of these midterms coming up, I mean, good luck to them getting donations for their voter base, because honestly, I don't even know what issues they're rallying behind. Like I said, it seems to be free speech right now, although that could quickly change for them in the next few months. But Charlie Kirk memorial rallies are full. They are bursting in places like Los Angeles, liberal areas. Of course, Mayor Karen Bass had to defy Trump and her refusal to lower flags to half-mast. That was something that Trump said needs to be done till Sunday. Future historians will study the sudden and seismic change stemming from this tragedy. They may even name it after Charlie, calling it the Kirk effect. What I think is happening now is that people are starting to realize that the Democrat Party is the party that's really on the wrong side of history. Even though the Democrats are the ones who rewrite the history books, they think they control education, all of this, so they're just going to prop up all of their ideas, push socialism, push, I guess, justifying political assassination. Well, I don't think that they're going to be the ones who are having the last laugh in the end. They are not going to be the ones who are actually writing history books. That is going to be the conservatives and probably the people who actually come together and read and, read history, because a lot of these people on the left, they actually don't. They actually don't even know what they're talking about. If you look at some of the exchanges between Charlie Kirk and students on college campuses, they'd ask him a question. It would be all written down and planned, and they'd come to him with their question. And then he would literally fire back one question at them, and they would have no idea how to respond. So it's not like the depth of knowledge for many of these people is very deep. And so what Trump, Kirk, the rest of us have been advocating for, what we are saying we need to do, is nothing short of bring about, honestly, a civil rights movement of our time, a civil rights movement that is for nonviolence, a movement that posits the radical idea that democratically elected governments should serve the needs of the electorate in that country. It's a movement that proclaims we need fair treatment from the powers that be in education and healthcare and other institutions, all of which have been increasingly inclined to treat us as less than human. For a generation, Democrats have been spreading false libel against conservatives, claiming that our every word is not only coded in Hitler, Nazism, all of these words I just throw around, but somehow our words have the power to kill people, like we're all skillfully wielding some kind of power with simply just being conservative, simply just our existence. I think even if we didn't say anything, they still find our existence upsetting. And of course, Charlie Kirk, who was saying something, who was saying his beliefs on college campuses and on his podcasts, things like that, the left found reprehensible and something that they felt could be justified in assassination. What's happening is that those lies are coming to a head in a big way. And it looks absolutely terrible for the Democrats. Like, hang your head in shame and try to convince people you were never really a member of that party level of bad. I think that may happen to a lot of young people who are still liberal. Later, they're going to realize that, oh my gosh, I literally cannot believe that I used to agree with these people. It's clear that they are the party of greed, power, crime, hatefulness. Charlie Kirk's legacy will live on, will grow even stronger than ever before. And as we've seen, we've seen such a positive response in many ways, where so many people who are conservative are, they're not acting out in violence, not like people did in response to George Floyd on the left. They're coming together in prayer. They're very peaceful, and they're deciding that they're going to change their own lives for the better. They're going to get married, have kids, focus on work, focus on God. And that was really ultimately, at the end of the day, Charlie Kirk's message, and is the conservative message. That's what we're trying to conserve. We're trying to conserve an American family that's based on God, and a country that is a place people want to live, where they're free. And you can't honestly be free. You can't have free debate in a country where you're always fearing for your life that you're going to be murdered because of your beliefs. And so I think that there could be a permanent 10 to 30 seat majority for Republicans in the House, honestly, looking forward, because of these changes in the census and because of the changes in actual people's mindsets and the move we saw in 2024 of many Hispanics to the right. So there's so many factors here, but I think this is really the cherry on top of this. I also think we'll see the America First movement become the new de facto center in politics. In other words, I think the future of our country will be MAGA forever.
Guys, when I flip a container around and can't pronounce it or recognize the ingredients, I put it back. But you won't see me putting these containers back. Why? These are fruits and veggies in a capsule balance of nature. Very easy to take. And you're going to find these on a shelf in our house. Every single ingredient is a fruit or veggie plucked from the soil. No binders, no additives, no artificial colors, no fillers, just whole fruits and veggies. It's gluten-free and vegan-friendly. These harvested ingredients are freeze-dried into a fine powder using an advanced vacuum cold process to better preserve nutritional value. I can say with total confidence, I'm getting 31 ingredients from fruits and veggies. And by the way, if you don't like taking pills, no problem. Consider opening the fruits and veggie supplements, mix the powder into a smoothie, sprinkle it over your food. Join me in taking balance of nature every day. Use my discount code AMERICA. You get 35% off, free shipping, plus for a limited time, a free bottle of fiber and spice. This is the fiber and spice. You can order online at balanceofnature.com. Again, use my discount code AMERICA, 35% off, plus a free bottle of fiber and spice. Once again, balanceofnature.com. Mike Lindell tells me a major retail chain canceled a massive order, leaving MyPillow with an overstock of classic MyPillows. But hey, their loss is your gain. For a limited time, MyPillow is offering the entire classic collection at true wholesale prices. I've never seen them really this low. Get a standard MyPillow for just $17.98. Upgrade to queen size for just $22.98. King size just $24.98. Snag body pillows for $29.98. And versatile multi-use pillows for just $9.98. Plus, when you order over $75, you get $100 in free digital gifts. No strings attached. That's right. Premium pillows at unbeatable prices and bonus gifts to top it off. So don't wait. Call 800-876-0227. That's 800-876-0227 or go to mypillow.com. Don't forget the promo code DINESH Dinesh and grab your standard MyPillow for just $17.98 while supplies last.
Is the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians the revival of an ancient conflict recorded in the Bible?
The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. What if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy people of Israel?
Dinesh D'Souza went into a war zone to make his new film. It offers a new way to understand October 7th, Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be tied to this place?
We came back to a land that was largely barren and empty, and we brought it back to life, and we're going to keep it.
The Dragon's Prophecy isn't just about the Middle East. It's about you.
Because without that Jewish foundation, there is no Christianity.
Based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller, in theaters October 6th and 8th. Streaming and DVDs available October 9th. Get the film at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. This film contains graphic violence of October 7th.
I am delighted to welcome our guest today, Christine Yeargin. She has been one of my friends for the longest time. She is a Students for Life spokeswoman. She has a podcast. She's on social media. So, Christine, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Oh, you too. Well, there's so much to talk about. It was just jumping out to me. We both have plants behind us. But there's so much to talk about. And I guess I feel like I'm in a little bit of like a positive mood, but also somber from everything that's been happening lately. Maybe we can start by talking a little bit about some of the maybe spiritual elements and some of the effects of Charlie Kirk's assassination. I know recently we've seen a lot of people become much more interested in him. Of course, there are many people like us who probably followed him for a long time and listened to him or knew him personally, but there's been like this worldwide response to what happened to him. And in many ways, I feel like it is horrific what happened, but good that so many people are hearing about what happened, how awful it was, but also the things he talked about, the things he believed in. And a lot of his message is really reaching a lot more people. And so just kind of wanted to get your maybe initial reaction to it and kind of what you've seen take place since then.
Yeah, what happened was one of the most horrific things that I've ever seen in my life. But what kept coming to me today as I was going to church was, what the devil meant for evil, the Lord will use for good. And I feel like I got to see that firsthand as I was on my way to church this morning. I thought, I wonder if it's going to be packed, because I remember one of the big things that Charlie said that we're seeing go viral right now so much is that he wanted to be remembered for his faith. And I think the fact that that was so impactful to him and that that's what he wanted to be remembered for is really resonating with a lot of people who maybe grew up in church but haven't been going back to church, people who have never been to church, people who go to church but are lukewarm in their faith. And when I was on my way to church this morning, I saw just lines of cars, and we ended up having to take a shuttle to church, which was so beautiful because there's so many people coming, and we went to a service that is typically a little bit less busy than some of the more coveted times to go. So seeing that, it's a reminder that that is what is the most important thing. Obviously, our faith shapes our conservative values, and a lot of us are in the political world and we talk about politics, and what you see Charlie do, the debates on college campuses, that's all fun when you see the debating, and he did so respectfully so many times. But at the end of the day, it's not politics that matters, it's our faith. And Charlie stood so firm in that. And there's so many people who want to hold on to or grab hold of what he was saying when he said, I want to be remembered for my faith, my courage for my faith. And I think that we're going to see that more and more, and people are going to fill the pulpits, fill the aisles at church. They're going to come to Jesus. And I'm so excited to see that something that was meant for evil will turn for good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crazy thing too is I feel like while he was alive, I wish that more of that was appreciated. I mean, many people did, but I feel like now it's almost ironic because so much of that message didn't get out to as many people as it could have at the time. But I think it's also really cool to see so many young people, because that really was where Charlie spent so much of his time, was with young people, with students on campuses. And he really wanted young people to become conservative, to become Christian, to have a family and live a good life and all of those things, and to really escape a lot of the evil that is taught in college campuses, escape a lot of the lies that are told to people. And I feel like it would really be in his honor if even more young people joined Turning Point. And we just saw Andrew Colvett, his producer, recently said that they've gotten requests for thousands of new Turning Point chapters, even just in the last few days, to, I think, almost double the number of Turning Point chapters that already exist. So there's this kind of huge explosion with that. Do you have kind of any predictions? I mean, what do you think it's going to be like in this, even next year at Turning Point conferences, things like that, without Charlie there?
Oh, I think that we're only going to see an explosion. I mean, like you said, Andrew posted on X, I'm sure you saw it. I think the most recent update, or at least the last update I saw, was 33,000 requests to start new Turning Point chapters. And from my knowledge, they had, I believe, 900 college campus chapters and then maybe 1,200 high school chapters. I recently was asked to speak at a local one here in Alabama, a high school group, and it's one of the biggest ones in Alabama. And I think we are only going to see this continue to explode. There is a hunger for what's going on in the world right now, to be able to understand what's going on and to be able to combat it, because a lot of people are so confused. When you look at what's happening in high schools, when you look at what's happening on college campuses, there is a lot of indoctrination. There are a lot of activist teachers. And I know there are people saying, well, my kid goes to a private school, we're great. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. Even if you're at a private school, there's people who are trying to come in and sink their claws into these children and push them toward an agenda that's not true. And so I think the fact that it's such a love-hate relationship that I have with social media, because so much bad can come from social media, but also so much good. And that's where we're seeing Charlie make such a massive impact and go viral even after what happened. And I think we're going to continue to see people wake up. There's going to continue to be people say, like, hey, well, who was that Charlie Kirk guy? And what did he actually stand for? Is he this awful person that I'm seeing so many people say that he was? And let me check that out for myself. And there's a lot of students who, I went to a local candlelight vigil last night, and there were a lot of young people there who wanted to pay their respects to Charlie. And I think that in a world that seeks to shut you up, and maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable when you're young to kind of speak back, or speak out, you don't want to be the kid who is pushing back all the time. I say you don't want to. Typically, when you're trying to fit in, it's uncomfortable to go against the grain. But what I'm seeing over the last few days is there are people saying, forget being comfortable anymore. I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to push back and I'm going to stand for what's right. So I think whatever they thought that they were doing, if they thought that they were going to silence Charlie, I think they only made his voice more powerful.
Yeah, no, they definitely made his voice more powerful. And I think it really highlighted the spiritual evil kind of divide, the divide between good and evil, because when you see this happen, you just think to yourself, wow, this is literally what evil is doing something like this and seeing that happen. When you think about, so many people impacted, but his family, his wife, his kids, probably his parents, many people who were close to him, my heart really goes out to them. I know that you do a lot of pro-life work and meet with a lot of women in difficult situations. It just kind of makes me think of a lot of that kind of work, because you're like pouring your heart out to someone who's really in a very difficult place. But she gave a speech that was very inspiring, very strong to continue with Turning Point. And I know they have a Turning Point Faith arm of Turning Point as well. So maybe we'll be seeing a lot more explosion of that.
I think so. I actually got my start with Turning Point. Essentially, it was Charlie who pulled me into the conservative movement back in 2019. And I had no desire to talk about politics, although I was conservative. I was kind of one of those on the sideline kind of people. I felt this stirring in my heart to talk about the pro-life issue because I had an unplanned pregnancy myself. And but as you know, it is one of the most controversial topics to talk about. I mean, not controversial to us because fighting for the preborn is not controversial. Ending their life is. But it can be uncomfortable because there are a lot of people who get very emotional over the issue. And years ago, I was invited. He was starting something that was called the Falkirk Center, which is now called the Freedom Center at Liberty University. And I got invited. I think there was maybe 20 content creators who were able to come to that. And it was kind of my first dose of conservatism, being in the conservative movement. And from there, they pulled me into Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA sent me to Israel with a group of content creators a few years ago, and I got to walk where Jesus walked and all of these things. So Charlie, his wife Erica, I know, and they're very near and dear to my heart, because if it weren't for them, I probably wouldn't be working with women in unplanned pregnancies. I probably wouldn't be advocating for getting indoctrination out of school or fighting school boards or all of these things that I've done. So I think we're going to continue to see more people do that. But what's going on with Erica and what she said about we need to continue to fight. We're not going to stop. You're not going to stop this movement. You're not going to forget my husband's name. That really resonates with me, because my first instinct, and you might have even experienced a little bit of this yourself, when this happened, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to risk my children not having a mother. I don't want to go to something where I have to fear for my actual life. And then I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, no, that's not what we can do. My husband said, that's not Charlie. That's not what Charlie would want you to do. He would want you to continue to speak out. This is why it's the most important time to speak out. And so like Erica said, we will not let his movement die. We will not shut up. We will not cower. We will not be silent. We are going to continue the work that Turning Point USA started, which essentially is promoting our conservative values, and now Turning Point Faith with promoting our Christian beliefs. We're going to be bolder and stronger than ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We do have to be bolder, stronger than ever. It does make you think, though, wow, are we going to be doing outdoor events? Are we going to be doing events in the same capacity? Because while we don't want to be silenced, we also don't want to be killed, or at least make it, accessible, I guess, for these people to do that. Yeah. And it's scary because the level of indoctrination, the level of just lies that are told to a lot of these young people can radicalize them and make them want to do things like this. And it may not even just be young people, because there are some older people on the radical left that you see at some of these events that are just in Antifa and all of this. But especially people like, I think this person spent a lot of time online, spent a lot of time in those spaces that unfortunately probably impacted his brain very negatively. Do you think that we can still gather in the same way. I even think about worship situations, right? A lot of churches, it's like we want to be together, and that's so important to be together. But I guess doing that in a safe way. How would you kind of think about that?
Obviously, we have to be smart about it. There are people on the left who are mentally unstable, that are unhinged, that have been indoctrinated so much so that they are willing to put other people's lives in danger, and they're willing to attack us. So we have to be smart about it. If you're in a state that you can get your concealed carry, I would say do that immediately. I would talk to anybody who's having any sort of gathering. Make sure that you have security there. We went at the vigil that we went to last night. They had police officers present. They had undercover officers present, or undercover security, and people who were willing to, stand up and do what was right should anything happen. I'm in Alabama, so I didn't foresee anything happening. And should anything happen, they're, a bunch of big burly guys who are ready to handle it and take care of it. So I felt pretty safe in Alabama. But I lived in Colorado for so many years, and Denver is a cesspool of liberal indoctrination, and I could see something potentially happening in a city like that. So I think that being smart about it, but obviously not letting it silence you still. Move forward with wisdom, move forward with a sense of being able to protect those around you, keep your head on a swivel. I think all of those things are important, but I think that we will continue to push back, and I think in the end, ultimately, we will win, and we know that God wins in the end. But I think this is a really good time kind of to shift the narrative here just a little bit for parents to stand up. I have a high school senior who has been in every kind of education system, from a public school to a charter school to now a private school. I have 2 little girls that I homeschool. Truly, if you want my honest opinion, I would think that homeschool is the way to go to really make America great again. But we have so much indoctrination, and I think that's part of what happened to this young man who was so hateful toward Charlie. It's likely what he experienced in school and being perpetually online in the dark corners of the internet. I think that was probably something that impacted him and changed him and radicalized him. But as parents, we have to be vigilant with what's being taught to our children, with what's being shown to them on screens, with what's happening on the internet, on social media, and all of these things. I saw a picture of the assassin that they're saying that it is, who his mother gave him a computer or something along the lines at 12 years old, and said that I think the caption was something along the lines of, we don't really see him anymore. He's just on the computer, basically. And that was probably one of the worst possible things that she could have done for him. When you have endless access to the internet and groups that are going to radicalize you, whether it's Reddit or Discord or all of these other channels that people get on, I don't even know all of them because I don't live in those worlds, but I do hear about it a little bit. I think parents have to pay attention to what's going on in their child's school. Are there teachers that are talking about conservatism in a negative light? Are there people trying to indoctrinate? I know we see a lot of stuff that goes viral on social media, where it's the rainbow wearing, BLM or trans whatever, that have all these pins on them that they're wearing. And yes, those people are people that we need to look out for. We don't need to have our children in their classes. However, it's the ones who look like your friendly neighbor, Mr. Rogers, to me, that are the most scary, because they look like somebody who's just there to teach your kid. But at the end of the day, they're putting these subtle messages in your child's head that conservatives are evil, racist, vile people, and they're dangerous. They're a threat to you. They're a threat to your safety. They're a threat to your future. And you can only tell a child that so many times before they start to believe it. So parents have a really big responsibility right now to step up and protect their children, make sure that they know what is happening in their schools, make sure they know their teachers. Go sit in and on a class. Go read through your child's curriculum that your teacher is that teacher is teaching them. Make sure you're looking at their notes and you know what's going in their brain, so that you can call it out at the school, or you can combat it, you can teach them otherwise. But I think that gone are the days that we can just send our kids to school and not pay attention to what's going on, because when you do that, leftist radicalism is what is happening in 2025. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's awful. And we have so much work to be done there. But certainly when it comes to parents, when it comes to home life, that is going to be the foundation and the most important thing. And if you give that up, you're basically saying, hey, anyone else can step into that, whether that's
Yeah.
school, online, all kinds of other influences from a culture that's going to step in there. Hopefully our culture is changing for the better, like we're talking about, but there's a very radical segment of the left that is sadly committed to this. They're really celebrating what happened. They're digging their heels into this. And so I think we do still have to be worried in a sense of being aware of our surroundings, all of those things, because those people are unfortunately still out there. And what scares me about the people who were celebrating the assassination is, what about the next person who's, I don't want to say plotting it, but looking at these kind of reactions from the left and wanting to get that reaction as well. It's very scary. And so we have to really be alert and aware of those things. You mentioned something earlier about how you moved from Colorado to Alabama, and how, in Alabama you feel safe because there are these burly guys around who have weapons who can defend you. Isn't that so the truth, though? It's just ironic because in these places where people do have guns, you actually feel safer. But in places that people don't have them, it's very liberal. It's like one person comes in like that, like you're going to be totally defenseless. And it's so sad that many people think Charlie deserved what he got, or they make these kind of rationalizations just because he was in favor of the Second Amendment, as if that means that he deserves what happened to him.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, we hear people say it all the time who are on our side is, guns don't kill people, people kill people. If you have a gun, we have multiple guns in our household. Never have they been fired at a person, ever. So what the problem is the mental health issue, the radical leftists, like that is a problem. And if we don't get it under control, if we don't push back, if we don't get a hold of the education system that's churning these people out like crazy right now, I think that we're going to have a problem. But I'm confident that we are getting it under control. There are people waking up. The homeschool movement has grown tremendously, even from this issue. People said, I don't want my kids going to school anymore. I'm pulling them out today. I'm pulling them out in December because they want to make sure that their children are being educated and they're not being indoctrinated in that way. And they're not being told that gun control is the way, because truly at the end of the day, most college campuses are gun-free zones. I believe this specific university where this happened wasn't. I believe they do allow concealed carry, but the thing is, killing someone is illegal. So do you think that somebody who has the mindset to kill somebody is going to follow the laws of not obtaining a gun? Probably not. So I think that we have to really hone in on what is being taught to our children, not to continue to bring it back to that, but I think that's what's so important. The biggest thing we can do right now is go home and love our family and bring them to Jesus and make sure that we're educating them properly and make sure that they're not being indoctrinated in this way and that we can raise them up, and how beautiful of an opportunity that is for us to have that bond with our family and to make sure that culture, our children who we raise, and I know you're a mother, they're going out into culture one day and they're going to be pushing back against all of this and standing for what's good, true, and beautiful. And I'm really excited for what's going to be happening with the youth moving forward. I think I called it this morning the Charlie effect. The fact that there was somebody who posted on social media, it's going viral right now, and said, I haven't been to church, but I'm going to church today. I'm going to go up and shake the pastor's hand at the end of service and say, Charlie Kirk sent me here. And so I think we're going to see the Charlie effect in so many ways, as it relates to our faith, as it relates to the church and people coming to Christ, as it relates to people understanding what conservative values are all about. Because a lot of times I think that there are people who don't really pay attention. They see the headlines and they see that we're racist, we're homophobic, we're this, we're that, when really somebody like Charlie would have given the shirt off of his back and truly cared for the students that he was reaching out to, even those that he disagreed with. I mean, if you disagreed with him, you got to come to the front of the line and have a conversation with him. And he treated you with dignity and respect. And I think we're going to continue to see the Charlie effect grow.
I agree, Woo. More of the Charlie effect. Well, Christine, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that wraps up today's show. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow me on social media. I am Danielle D'Souza Gill. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, True Social, Rumble, YouTube, all of the platforms. I am active on there, so make sure to find me so we can stay in touch. And I look forward to seeing you guys at some point in the future. MAGA.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and salemnow.com.